Southside representing that north side. I ain't got no time, crime after crime. Every day I'm down here to terrorize. Devil afterlife, silence on 966 be my kind. Hear the second line, hear your mama cry. Violence what we bout, all on my side. Dicky time with the suicide, smoking your ash in my pie. Pulling up with a new grind, fuck, dude, we fuck with your kind. Look, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with a new grind, fuck, dude, we fuck with your kind. No, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die.
The murder rate in New Orleans has already surpassed last year's, and the negativity that comes with the killings, once again, making national headlines.
Pulling up with a new vengeance, hot you. Sick is so sick, enemies think that I trust them. Head in the cuts from the mushrooms, isolated, I don't want discussion. Head like a bitch while I fuck.
Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keane. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out. Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn. And wherever you're watching from, please make sure to hit that like, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and share the link. It does help me to get it out there. That way new people can find me. So make sure to share the link, share it to your social media pages, the groups that you belong to, all that good stuff. Keep in mind, we're viewer powered. If you'd like to donate support to the channel, you can do so. PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger, by joining us over on Patreon. Tonight we are going to, and I'm sorry about being late, my computer decided to update right before the show started. I thought it would be done in like just a second, but it took a little bit longer than I anticipated. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. We're going to be doing another Mystery of the God series, and this is going to be a really interesting one. This is one that I've really wanted to do for quite a while, actually. We're going to be talking about the Greek gods, and we're going to be taking a look at Timaeus and Critias from Plato, and reading Plato's version of Atlantis throughout tonight. We're going to be looking at the story of Prometheus. This is one of my favorite ones. You know, the Greeks, I feel like they really had a really depth and understanding, you know, like when it comes to the gods. And it's like, in my opinion, it's like we don't really have this kind of understanding today. You know, we see everything as deity, as something to be worshipped and all of that. And they did have a certain reverence for these energies and these archetypes. But they also had a deep understanding of the astrological correlations and how basically it's the heavens that guide our trajectory here on Earth, right? And if you look at it even from a personal perspective, each one of us, and this is, not everybody's going to be a believer in astrology, but I am. And our astrological alignments, like the stars that are aligned, the day or the night that you're conceived and you're born, those are the energies that are most prominent, that went into the making or creation of your being. So they're going to be most prominent in, your character and your personality. And as the procession of the equinox, continues throughout the ages, and as all of us grow older through our life and we go through these cycles within our life, these astrological alignments have a different effect on each one of us. Well, a lot of these stars and these zodiacal, alignments were attributed to these deities and gods, and this was just a better way for them understanding and explaining these archetypes and these energies, right? And they could tell it in a story form. And not only that, it would also give them an outlet to be able to tell how mankind was conceived. From the very beginning and the primordial entities, or the primordial time, before there was ever deity, before there was ever human, before there was ever anything, to then the stories of the Titans and the Olympians. And what we're actually being told is these ages of humanity, right? The procession of the equinox, as we go from one age to the next, and as we go from one element to the next, which makes up a different part of the human being. Every time a cycle ends, there is a grand mutation here on the earth. And I did have somebody request this recently, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. We're going to, do a video on catastrophism and the catastrophic cycles and, how they play out and how each time, whether you look at the solar cycles and we get these solar maximums and solar minimums, and we know that, solar energy actually affects consciousness, right? We are more intelligent during solar maximums. We live longer. Just, there's a lot of different effects on not just the brain, but the human psyche as a whole and the collective. And you can look at all throughout history in the different periods where, there's things where the mythos of Planet X, Nibiru, Herculobos, the Destroyer, all of these come from, because these were, in fact, endings of cycles, right? And when these cycles ended, people got really fucking weird because the energies were really weird, That's why they would talk about, they would go up on the mountain, meaning they ascended to a high state of consciousness when they went up on that mountain, right? They would go up on that mountain, and then when they would come down, and they would have forgotten their gods and their guides and all of that. So it's saying, at this end of the age, we reach this pinnacle, this zenith in consciousness. We're at like an all-time high in consciousness. We're actually doing it right now, guys. That's why information is so plentiful. That's why knowledge is increased. And that's why when you look at like biblical prophecies and things of that nature too, that's what it talks about, like knowledge. That's how you know the end of the age is coming, right? They asked Christ, it was like, Lord, how will we know? How will we know when the end has come? And he said, when you see the man carrying a pail of water, follow him into his house, right? He was talking about the age of Aquarius. That is the constellation or representation of the zodiacal constellation of Aquarius, right? Follow him into his astrological house, right? And it also talks about, for lack of knowledge, surely my people will perish. Why? Right? Because this is like talking about a culmination of a cycle, a culmination of an age. We're going from a Piscean age into, the age of Aquarius. And what we see in a lot of these tales from the Mysteries of the Gods series is that each one of these cultures were in different parts of humanity, highs and lulls. There's ups and downs in consciousness, right? Because we are going on an orbit. We're cycling, orbiting around the sun, cycling around the sun. We're making a spherical orbit because that's everything within creation. It operates in spheres, right? And it operates in angles, okay? So the lower, the lesser, the physical representation of things are always represented by angles. That's why you'll see like, the cube and all of that when it's talking about Saturn and the solar system and the God of this world, right? It's the hexagon and the and stars and things like that. Those 90-degree angles, archangels, right? And then when it's talking about something from the heavens, usually, we'll see things like representations of the Ouroboros, right? The serpent devouring its own tail, which is also akin to reproduction, right? The serpent's mouth being the female vagina and the tail being the phallic symbolism of the penis, right? Representing reproduction in that infinite loop, right? That circle. That's why when you practice Solomonic magic too, you surround yourself with a circle of protection, right? Planets operate in circles, right? We're born within a womb, right? What is the Hebrew meaning of the word, womb? It's matrix. So when we think about a matrix and that we live in a matrix, it means you live in a womb. You're being birthed. This is a conscious birthing process that's taking place, and for each and every one of us, it's going to be different because we're not all at the same place at the same time. Not the life that I'm on right now is not going to be, absolutely the same as the life that you're on right now. You could be 50 lifetimes ahead of me in the embodiment you're currently in. But all of this to me seems like this giant process of evolving humanity back to where it came from, which ultimately is the creator, the source, and God. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for joining me. Like I said, I do apologize for being late. Please, please, please hit that like, hit the thumbs up wherever you're watching from. I'm streaming on the Facebook channels, the YouTube channels, and Twitter. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And if you'd like to donate support to the channel, that's how I keep it all going. Links are in the description box down below. You can join us over on Patreon or book a personal tarot reading as well by texting 513-393-2396 or emailing the realbestmpodcast@gmail.com. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, Future Fields. Well, the new stuff that we're working on, I'm trying to just put like a big collection of work together, honestly. That way people have, religion. To me, religion is public enemy number one. As we move into this new age, and people, they don't want to hear that because they think that I'm attacking God or something like that, when it's really not true. See, religion is created by man. It's created by man. It has nothing to do with God. Nothing at all. And as we leave the age of Pisces, you guys are going to notice that religion loses its power. As a matter of fact, it's, you can mark my words on that. That's not a prophecy, that's a promise. Religion will absolutely lose its power as we go into the age of Aquarius. How do we know that? Because we know that the astrological energies don't support religion anymore. That's why you see like all the shit with the Vatican and all the different religions they're crumbling. No organized religion is what it once used to be. They're all being exposed for the corruption. They're all being exposed for what they actually are, which is, systemic mechanisms of oppression, and mind control and all of that, and then using God as the way to do that. So, judge by the fruits, it's bad. Yeah, it is bad. So we're going to start off with Prometheus first. A lot of people, when we think about the story of Prometheus, and I will try to do this, something I like to do, something I like to do is really just kind of explain who these gods are in other mythologies and who they are as far as like the astrological correlations and all of that. So I will be coming out with some newer videos just kind of explaining like the 7 chakras and all of that. That way people have a base knowledge for all of this. But until that, check out the first 4 parts of this. They are available. Alright, so Prometheus. There once lived a race of huge giants called Titans. These giants were fierce, turbulent, and lawless, always fighting amongst themselves and against Jupiter, the king of the gods. When we think about Jupiter, we will think about Zeus. We'll think about Jesus, who bore our stripes, the stripe planet Jupiter, the king planet, the king of kings, right? Thor from the Norse mythos. So there's a lot of different correlations, and you watch the series and you'll see. One of the Titans, whose name was Prometheus, was wiser than the rest. He often thought about what would be likely to happen in the future. One day Prometheus said to his brother Titans, "What is the use of wasting so much strength? In the end, wisdom and forethought will win. If we are going to fight against the gods, let us choose a leader and stop quarreling amongst ourselves." The Titans answered him by a shower of great rocks and uprooted trees. Prometheus, after escaping unhurt, said to his younger brother, "Come, Epimetheus, we can do nothing among these Titans. If they keep on, they will tear the earth to pieces. Let us go and help Jupiter to overcome them," which is actually, he went to Zeus. Epimetheus agreed to this, and the 2 brothers went over to Jupiter, who called the gods together, and began a terrible battle. The Titans tore up enormous boulders and cast them at the gods, while Jupiter hurled his thunderbolts and his lightnings in all directions. Soon the sky was a sheet of flame. The seas boiled, the earth trembled, and the forest took fire and began to burn. And excuse me, I don't know why I get the yawns when I start a video. And I want you to kind of like think about, the Colburn Bible and stuff like that, these ages of the destroyer that talks about, the waters boiling, the sky set on fire and all of this, right? This is what they're talking about. And are they also talking about an age of fire, right? Like the age of Aries, the burning bush and all that, when, Moses comes down on the mountain, and they're worshiping the golden calf, the Anunnaki and, the prophecy of Marduk, right, which is the ram, right, and how, he was supposed to become, the god of all gods, and he did, which would also correlate to Ra from the Egyptian video. So, like I said, these are all, and one thing what I really want to prove by doing these is that all religions are the same. That's what I truly want to prove with this. Is to show people all religions are the same, and then we fight over these little details, and we call it mythology, like the stories are fake or not true, or was just like our ancestors were stupid and they just made all this shit up, even though they were more technologically advanced than us, more than likely. Even though they were probably more spiritually aware than us, definitely. We tried to toss it up to they were stupid. These are just stories. They were, they're so primitive, But it couldn't be, it's a total opposite. We use that to discount these stories, but what they're trying to do is explain to us not only how the heavens work, but how the elements work, how we're created, all of it, and it's all the same. No matter what culture you go to, it's always the same story. And Carl Jung talks about the collective unconscious and collective consciousness, anima, animus, right? And how the reason that the zodiac and the reason that everything really reflects, the same story, the same theme, is because everything that we see is a projection of ourselves, right? Everything. All of our reality, we are creating it, collectively co-creating it, and projecting it from within ourselves. So the universe truly is you inverted, so everything is following this story because we're all fractals or fragments of that infinite. Now, at last the gods, partly by the help of the wise counsel of Prometheus, conquered the Titans, took them to the ends of the earth, and imprisoned them in a deep underground cavern. And I want you to think about the fallen angels here, because that's a story you're being told also at the same time when they're thrown in the abyss, right, the bottomless pit. That's what you're talking about here. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. See, they think that paganism doesn't jive with the Bible and Christianity, but it actually does. They're telling the same exact stories, right? So they conquered the Titans, which would be giants. Think about Nephilim, right? Conquered the Titans, took them to the ends of the earth, and imprisoned them in a deep underground cavern. Neptune, the sea god, made a strong bronze gate with heavy bolts and bars to keep the giants down, while Jupiter sent Boreas and his brothers, the three giants with 50 heads and 100 hands each, to stand guard over them. All but one of the Titans who had fought against the gods were imprisoned in this cavern. This one who was not shut in with the others was Atlas, whose enormous strength was greater than that of his brothers. While his disposition was less quarrelsome, he was made to stand and hold up the sky on his head and hands. As the Titans could now make no more trouble, there was comparative peace and quiet on the earth. Nevertheless, Jupiter said that although the men who remained on the earth were not so strong as the Titans, they were a foolish and wicked race. He declared that he would destroy them sweep them away, and have done with them forever. And think about it, they're describing an age here, right? This age of giants, which if we kind of like look into the depths of this, and I just want to kind of like give you a perspective here, like Metatron is like supposed to be like a 55-foot, perfection of man, right? Metatron. And I've showed this before, but in the Valley of the Kings, right, in Egypt, and check out the Egyptian episode, for the Mysteries of the Gods. I think it's episode 1, we did Egypt. We've done the Anunnaki, we've done Egypt, we've done the Norse, we've done the Nephilim. Yeah, and now we're doing the Greek. But I want you to take a look at that, because they have these statues. And here, I'll show you an image of it. Right here. Well, maybe. There we go. I want you to just kind of like look at some of these images. I'll show you some of these images here. Right there. Here we go. Right here's the image. Over here where my cursor is, you'll see, and they've got these all over the fucking place, by the way. You probably can't see it behind my image, behind my picture here, but you'll see it over here on the left where my little cursor is. Valley of the Kings. Let me just try to scroll through here, show you more of them. But these images, there's these statues here all through, the Egyptian valleys, and these statues range in size, right? And I wish you could see it. Let me remove this. Hopefully I can. I'll start just pulling some of these images up for you guys. So these statues, they range in size. I'm going to show you just in 2 seconds. And you'll see them range from like 12 to 15 feet in height to like 36 feet in height and shit like that, right? But a lot of people think because of the patriarchy, because they're stupid asses and they don't actually study anything, they just regurgitate the shit they're told, that the reason like the female statues and shit like that are smaller than the male statues is because they thought less of women and shit. It's just dumb. It's not true. It's not true. What actually was going on here was they were representing different ages and different here we go. Different ages and different times of consciousness in humanity. So we had an age of like when you like Inanna and Isis and all of that, the divine feminine, like the maternal age of energy, right? So they were a specific height because that was a specific age of consciousness. It had to do with, Taurian energy and all of this, okay? It was like, probably what we would consider akin to like the primordial age, like the birthing of Earth and our time here on Earth. And then, sorry guys, I can't clear my throat here. And then we went into a patriarchal age, which was the last age that we experienced. And you'll see like the row of the kings. It's men statues, but they're taller. These were like the giants, right? This was another age. This was the giants. This was a higher consciousness because another fucking age had passed. So each height of these, 12 to 15 feet tall would be one set of consciousness, just like a 5 to 7 foot tall man is one set of consciousness, and then below that would be like a hobbit person, which we have excavated, with geological data supports that there were smaller people, smaller human beings, right, throughout time. That would be a lower consciousness. That's why the body was smaller. It generated a smaller electromagnetic field, a smaller auric field. Okay? It's a smaller portion of energy packed into one. And then, we have man at our current state, the 5 to 7 feet, which is like the next, level up in consciousness. Then you had like the 12 to 15 feet, which would be like your Nephilim or Fallen, right? Or Ijiji, right? And then you would go into something even higher, like a 24 to 36 feet tall, which would be like Titans or, something like that, something even bigger. And then like your 55 feet, so these are like levels in consciousness, and you'll see the statues in Egypt, they're all precisely like the same heights, but they're like male and female, and they're these different heights, and they're trying to show you and describe to you these different heights of human consciousness and what we were at different times and different points, right? So that's why that is. It has nothing to do with the fact that they were sexist pigs and, they just didn't want women to get their props. The feminine, see right here, how they're all sitting down here, and then there's statues that are lower than them that are standing up that are a lot smaller. These were, and notice there's 4 of them, like the 4 archangels, north, south, east, west, right? These are a lot bigger. These are primordial beings, okay? That's why it goes like this. So, where are we at here? Now, as the Titans could now make no more trouble, there was comparative peace and quiet on the earth. Nevertheless, Jupiter said that although the men who remained on the earth were not strong as the Titans, they were a foolish and wicked race. He declared that he would destroy them. And like I said, we're talking about this race of people. Whoops, bottomless pit. Hold on. We're talking about this race of people that were thrown in a bottomless pit. They were chained in Hades or Sheol or darkness, right? That means, this high state of consciousness that they were in, it fell, right? It descended. It's no longer on the earth, right? And that's why when we see in let me see if I can pull up some Bible verses on this. See, the pit with no visible bottom, apparently infinite death. That is the bottomless pit. And notice, these 7 angels, right? These are, different levels of consciousness. And remember, each chakra correlates to a deity, correlates to a day of the week, so on and so forth. The 5th angel, I saw a star fall from heaven, right? A star, which would be an angel, a watcher, a consciousness, an energy, fall from heaven unto the earth, which is the land. That's us. We are the earth, the physical. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Bottomless pit, it's underneath the earth. It's the upside down, right? And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit. The smoke would be like the shadow, right? As the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. The sun represents our souls, right? Light and energy, which were darkened, and the air represents consciousness, right? Our minds. So our minds and our spirits were darkened by this bottomless pit, right? So I'm just trying to tell you, they're trying to describe to you, the same fucking thing over and over and over. And the reason being that we think that this is something that's never happened before, but it actually has. That's why there's nothing new under the sun, right? There's nothing new under the sun. This happens over and over. Think about the tale of Ragnarok, right? How all the gods face off in the end and they basically annihilate each other, right? It's like the end of duality, and and then a new earth is made, and then all of a sudden a new sun is born, but this sun is a female. Why? Because it's a new dimension, right? And the dimensions are like mirrors, right? They mirror each other. So you go from light to dark, right? As above, so below. So if it's an infinite heavens above, what would be below? A bottomless pit, right? A bottomless pit. So this was once an age, and what did they get punished for? And they were called the Watchers in the book of Enoch, which is referred to in the book of Jude in the Bible. And it's also in the Ethiopian Bible, which is older than the canon that Christians currently read today. And it was in a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So just saying, if you want to try to dismiss Enoch. Now, they talk about these, 200 or whatever, these watchers, right? And watchers, messengers, princes, planets, angels, luminaries, heavenly hosts. There's a million names for the same exact thing. Okay? And how they teach mankind what? The art of metallurgy and to paint their eyes and all of this. You know what I mean? They brought knowledge. Okay? It was a higher consciousness, right? That gave us a higher knowledge. It's come from a different age. And then they were, the light was removed from them. They were shadows, right? And now think about Solomonic magic and how you summon these demons up, right? You evoke these demons that are a part of this collective unconscious that still exist, but they're basically detached from us now. They're parts of ourself pre-flood, pre-deluge, pre-Piscean age. That's what the Great Deluge was the age of Pisces, age of water, this great flood, right? These were fragments of the collective unconscious, these distorted parts of us that are no longer present, right, within us, because we're not, we can no longer access them. So we have to summon them as though it's it's like it's almost like it's not even a part of us. When we think it's not, when we're summoning demons, but it's actually you. You're actually summoning a dormant part of yourself, And that's why there's certain ways to go about it. And you got to approach them certain ways and speak to them certain ways, ask them certain questions, because they're different archetypes and different archetypical pieces of the collective. You know what I mean? So they once were a part of everything. So back to this. I hope that makes sense. I hope people are starting to get this. So the Titans can now make no more trouble. There was comparative peace and quiet on the earth. So this is after these angels are thrown in the bottomless pit, right? These watchers, or Enoch, that taught us all these things because they were a higher consciousness, okay? Jupiter, which would be Zeus, which would be Thor, all of it. Although the men who remained on the earth were not as strong as the Titans, they were a foolish and wicked race, and he declared that he would destroy them, sweep them away, and have done with them forever. Does this sound familiar? Right? Enki and Enlil, right? The story of the two brothers, right? And it's always Saturn and Jupiter, by the way. Because Saturn is the lord of the solar system, right? Saturn is rings, a Saturn moon matrix, and Jupiter is the king planet. So it's like light and dark, And Jupiter's age, that's why he's the king planet, because it was the age of Pisces. It's ruled by his star, his element. That's why in the age of fire before that, Saturn was the god, right? Satan, right? Notice like the Jewish people switched from worshiping Saturn to Jupiter and stuff like that as well, in their captivity in Egypt. A lot of people don't know that. That's why we got the Sabbat and Saturn's Day and all of that. That's where all that shit comes from. Okay, so they begged Jupiter so earnestly to spare them that Jupiter can then think about that. Who was earth, but Prometheus, the Titan, who was earth-born himself. Prometheus is the light bearer, by the way. Okay? He's the light bearer. He's Lucifer. Who loved these men of the earth, begged Jupiter so earnestly to spare them that Jupiter consented to do so. At this time, men lived in dark, gloomy caves, which we're going to get into where's it at? The allegory of the cave. So we'll get into that here in a moment. So, and think about what is the cave of treasures in the first book of Adam and Eve. Right, so notice there's always these caves, right? These dark, gloomy caves, these caves of treasures, and their friend Prometheus. I told you, every story is always the same. It doesn't matter. It's like no matter how you look at it, there's always going to be a part that you're going to be like, wow. So you mean to tell me this was fucking supposedly written 2,000 years apart? These people are on one whole side of the earth, and these people are on the other whole side of the earth. They killed each other over their religions, but they actually believed the same exact thing. Yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you. Yeah. Their friend Prometheus taught them to build simple houses, and I've talked about this before. So, when we think about houses and stuff, like a temple, a temple. That's why in Freemasonry, it's all about building like Solomon's temple, all the 33rd degree and shit like that. That's all they're doing, is trying to show you how to reconstruct Solomon's temple. And Solomon's temple was built out of what? Demons. Right? Demons. Like I said, that collective, unconscious, fragmented part of us, disembodied part of us, that we no longer access. So Prometheus taught them to build simple houses, which were much more comfortable than the caves had been. This was a great step forward, but men needed more help yet from the Titan. The beast in the forest and the great birds that built their nest on the rocks were strong, but men were weak. The lion had sharp claws and teeth. The eagle had wings. The turtle had a hard shell. But man, although he stood upright with his face toward the stars, had no weapon with which he could defend himself. Prometheus said that man should have Jupiter's wonderful flower of fire, which shone so brightly in the sky. So he took a hollow reed, went up to Olympus, stole the red flower of fire, and brought it down to earth in his reed. Now, I want you to think about the story of Enki and Enlil when Vasudra is being spoken to by Enki at the reed wall, right? Okay. I also want you to think about the Zulu creation mythos, where the lizard beings, right, come and man is hiding in the reeds, right, from these beings, and he takes the moon away and destroys the earth, or drags the moon in, it destroys the earth, and then they make them worship them, and they threaten to take the moon away and destroy it again, right? So they bow down and worship. Same thing. Jupiter, Zeus, Thor, whatever, Jesus is wanting worship here, right? And Prometheus is wanting to give them enlightenment, right? This is not just the flower of life. This is the lotus flower, right? This is the rose, right? This is the rose, with the rosy cross, Rosy Croix. This is, as well, this is, the third eye is what it actually is. And this flower of fire, and remember the age of fire, right? Before that, when men was magical, before the flood, right? This age of fire before the flood. So he took a hollow reed, went up to Olympus, stole the red flower of fire. Red in the system of the chakras is your root chakra, which represents your foundation, stability, passion and all of that as well. And one way in magic that you'll see a lot of people, attack other people. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you go after a person's root chakra, so all of our chakras, we have solar plexus, and you have 3 up, 3 down, right? So 3 up, 3 down. If I wanted to actually take out your crown or your third eye, I wouldn't even attack your crown or your third eye, because it's almost impossible to attack those kind of things straight on. So what a lot of people will do is bind your root chakra. That way it has a as above, so below, right? So if I bind you on your stability, your root, it affects all the other ones going upward. And it'll affect the top half too, the equivalent, your crown and your third eye, right? So after this, all the other creatures were afraid of man, for this red flower had made him stronger than they. After this, all the other creatures were afraid of man, for this red flower had made him stronger than they, right? And think about that, what that actually means. These creatures, right? These are like, this is like the demiurge, demons as well. Anytime we see a lot of times animals being described, you have to remember, and the sons of, Sons of the Law of One or whatever. I'm probably saying that wrong. I've done the book before. You guys know what I'm talking about. But this primordial beings that we first descended down from the Aethers, and we were mixing ourselves, and this is like the Lemurian race and all of that. We were mixing ourselves, with all our favorite things. That would be like the first fallen angel, actually. It was like we came down here and all of our favorite stuff. So we'd mix ourselves with a goat, or with a dog, or a wolf, or whatever, and a lion. And that's where you get like the tales of like minotaurs and all these different, entities. And that's why the Egyptian gods are like that, dog heads, like Anubis. Because the original primordial beings, that's what they did, and they got trapped. They got trapped in matter, right? At least that's the tale. They got trapped in the bottomless pit, right? Because they mixed with animal, with consciousness, right? So they had not just, they lost the consciousness part of themselves, that awareness, but they also had their animalistic side, so they become like really, sexual or, base and distorted because of it, because they were animalistic, right? So this red flower had made him stronger than they, meaning he had awareness, he was illuminated, right? He had a foundation, right? And what is that foundation? Christos, right? Man dug iron out of the earth. Think about the planets. Saturn, iron, right? Man dug iron out of the earth. And by the help of his new fire, made weapons that were sharper than the lion's teeth. Made weapons that were sharper than the lion is Leo. It's the sun, right? Right? Sharper than the lion's teeth. He tamed the wild cattle by the fear of it, yoked them together, and taught them how to draw the plow. And they're talking about a procession here, right? Iron out of the earth. This Saturn, right? Satan, iron, right? And think about, the prophecies from the Bible, mixing the iron with miry clay. Iron out of the earth, right? Iron, miry clay. Right? And by the help of this new fire, made weapons that were sharper, right? Sharper than the lion's teeth, right? So these dark words, these curses, were actually sharper, and they did more damage than the blessings they were speaking, right? Than the language they already had. He tamed the wild cattle, right? And think about, Aries, Taurus, all of that, right? Tamed the wild cattle by the fear. It yoked them together and taught them how to draw the plow. So in this age, it taught them how to till the soil, right, for the ages to come. He sharpened strong stakes, hardening them in its heat, and set them around his house as a defense from his enemies. He did many other things besides with the red flower that Prometheus had made to blossom at the end of the reed, right? The end of the reed, the end of the age. Prometheus had made to blossom at the end of the age, right? And think about these stakes too, like piercing Christ on the cross, you know what I mean? Or driving a stake into a vampire, you know what I mean? It's talking about piercing us, right? And these were protection or defense, you know. Jupiter, sitting on his throne, saw with alarm how strong man was becoming. One day he discovered, and remember the prophecies too, I want to, of, what was it, Uranus, the first king, and he was overthrown by Cronus, right, Saturn, the second king, so the god of ether and the waters and the heavens, outside of the Saturn system. And then Saturn in the Saturn solar system was the next god, Kronos. And then the next god was his son Jupiter, right, who overthrew him. And then Jupiter got prophesied that his son would overthrow him. Guess who his son is? Us, right? Jupiter, sitting on his throne, saw with alarm how strong man was becoming. It's representing the age of water. Why do they keep getting overthrown? Because these are new fucking ages. One day he discovered the theft of his shining red flower. And think about the shining red flower too, is a giant red spot on Jupiter. The giant red eye on Jupiter. Just saying. Prometheus was the thief. He was greatly displeased at this act. And Prometheus, this light bearer, right, was the thief. This is your story of Lucifer, guys. I hate to tell you. Does he seem like a bad guy to you? I mean, I used to think that he was such a sack of shit back in the day before I truly understood. I really did. I swear to God, I thought, man, this Luciferian bullshit, these motherfuckers, they invert everything. And the truth is like, no, the Luciferians are the only ones who haven't inverted shit. It's the world that's inside out. We're calling these fuckers upside down and evil, and the truth is they fucking just understand the story. That the knowledge isn't evil. The guy who gave it to us isn't a bad person for giving it to us. He was trying to break us out of slavery. That's why this whole rebellion shit come up. Notice they told you that, the ones that fell and were thrown in the bottomless pit, they rebelled against God. Did they rebel against God, or was it their age was over? Right? Their age was over. And somebody had to become the darkness first, because everything came out of darkness first. Right? Because God said, let there be light, meaning what? There was no light. There was only void, darkness. Read the Bible. Darkness came first. So these fallen angels were the first aeon, the first cycle, the first age. Right? Primordials. Then you had your Titans. Right? Then your Olympians. So on and so forth. These are ages. And these Olympians, these angels, they're worried because they know we're up next, right? Prometheus loves man too well, said he. He shall be punished. Then he called his 2 slaves, strength and force. And notice it's always in 2s. Remember, we've talked about the universal numbers here. 2 and 3, right? And 5. Okay? And most people will be like, no, John, it's 369. No, 369 are derivatives of the same number, which is 3. Okay? So 2, is always there. That's why it's always 2 brothers. It's always duality, good and evil, right? And then the 3 is the Trinity, triune. Everything's triune, right? Body, mind, soul, right? It's talking about the different layers of reality because we're a triune being, and both those together is 5, right? Which is the pentagram or the pentacle or the starfish body or the digits, digitaria, right? Then he called his 2 slaves, strength and force, and told them to take Prometheus and bind him fast to a great rock in the lonely Caucasian mountains. And I just want you to think about this. Strength and force. 2 slaves. Right? Could this be light and dark? Told them to take Prometheus and bind him to a great rock. The cornerstone. Christos. Right? in the lonely Caucasian mountains. This is the Caucasus Mountains, right? It's where the, Quetzalcoatl and all of that, when they talk about these plumed serpent gods, these white plumed serpent gods, right? It's because they descended out of the Caucasus Mountains. That's where the white man came from, right? And that's why there's such a division of white and black. Remember, we talked about, too, with the Masonic checkerboard floor and how it's actually 11-11. You add up white, it's 11. You add up black, it's 11. It's representing duality. And so when you see it like the little Lucifer figure with his fingers up, or the Jesus figure with his fingers up, At the same time, he ordered Vulcan, the lame smith god, to rivet the Titan's chains in a cunning way that only Vulcan knew, right? And chained to the bottomless pit, right? The chains of the bottomless pit. Think about Michael, who removes the chain of the bottomless pit, right? Here's your chain. Think about the Norse gods who talk about the hammered bracelet, right? These are all the same things, guys. Okay? And the Smith God, right, it's because this is catastrophism, right? That, hitting something, creating those sparks of life. Destruction, it's a destroyer God, Brahma, Shiva, right? There's always destruction. It's, to death and rebirth. There Prometheus hung on the rock for hundreds of years. He hung on the rock for hundreds of years. Hung on the cross, hung on the rock for hundreds of years. The sun shone on him pitilessly. By day, only the kindly night gave him shade. Think about that. The sun shone on him pitilessly by day. Only the kindly night gave him shade. Somehow light and dark. He heard the rushing wings of the seagulls as they came to feed their young who cried from the rocks below. The sea nymphs floated up to his rock to give him their pity. A vulture, cruel as the king of the gods, came daily and tore him with its claws and beak. But this frightful punishment did not last forever. Prometheus himself knew that someday he should be set free. And this knowledge made him strong to endure. Now, if we kind of look at this too, vultures are what? They feed on dead shit, right? Feeding off of death. We look at these beings, the rushing wings, right? Something that flies, like plumed serpents, things like that, of seagulls, right? This is something of the sea, a bird of the sea. As they came to feed their young who cried from the rocks below, right? Above and below. The sea nymphs floated up to his rock to give their pity. One comes down, one comes up, right? And the vultures, cruel as the king of the gods, right, came daily, each day, right, like the 7 days of creation, and tore him with its claws and beak. Death. This is a system of death, feeding on the system of death, the cycle of death. They're telling you how it works. But this frightful punishment did not last forever, meaning death will lose its sting, meaning we will not always be trapped in death, which is time. Prometheus himself knew that someday he should be set free, and that knowledge, gnosis, made him strong to endure. Say what, motherfucker? Prometheus himself, the light himself, knew that someday he should be set free. And this gnosis, this knowledge, made him strong to endure. For lack of knowledge, surely my people will perish. Knowledge will increase, right, in the last days. Do you see what I'm saying? Coming around full circle here. At last, the time came when Jupiter's throne was in danger. And Prometheus, pitying his enemy, told him a secret which helped him to make everything safe again. After this, Jupiter sent Hercules to shoot the vulture and to break the Titan's chains, so Prometheus was set free. Now, think about that. Jupiter's throne, he's a god of Pisces, right? The god of Pisces, of water, the king of kings, was in danger. Prometheus, the light bearer, Lucifer, pitying his enemy, told him a secret. He told him a mystery, right? Which helped him to make everything safe again. After this, Jupiter sent Hercules, the two pillars, right, to shoot the vulture and to break the Titan's chains. So the light was set free. Do you not see this? Like, just so crazy. So crazy. Now we're gonna go over to some other mythologies here. We're going to start to the primordials and the first dynasties and the origin of the world. These are some really good ones. And then we're going to talk about where's it at here? Yeah, the allegory of the cave. And then we're going to look at Plato's Atlantis. So stick with me here. Stick with me. Make sure that you're hitting the like wherever you're watching from too. Like if you're YouTube or whatever, make sure to hit that like for me. It does help me out a ton. 144,000 trillion. What's up? Quick question, John. So the planets are part of our energy. So maybe that's why planet Uranus is a spirit or consciousness. Heaven in Greek, Uranos or Uranus. Father is spirit and truth. Yeah, absolutely. Uranos or Uranus is part of the primordial beings. He was the first king, the first dynasty. So, that's really good. There it says he is Father is spirit and truth. Yeah. So that's because he was the first king, right? So the primordial, the first age, the first era. And you're about to hear about Uranus right now in Gaia, right? Or Celis and Terra. The ancient Greeks had several different theories with regard to the origin of the world, but the generally accepted notion was that before this world came into existence, there was in its place a confusing mass of shapeless elements called chaos. Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? The New World Order out of chaos, right? These elements becoming at length consolidated by what means does not appear, resolve themselves into two widely different substances, like the two rocks, right? The lighter portion, soaring on high, like the seagulls, formed the sky or firmament and constituted itself into a vast overarching vault, which protected the firm and solid mass beneath, right? The above and the below. And I just want you to understand too, that when they're talking about an overarching vault, that firmament actually means an arc. Right, so the Ark of the Covenant, right? The covenant is represented by the rainbow. The rainbow is the 7 colors represented by the 7 planets, the 7 metals, 7 minerals, so on and so forth, right? 7 days of the week. That Ark of the Covenant, right? It's the agreement of this projection that we exist into from, heavens above into here, this projection we're living in now. Thus came into being the two first great primeval deities of the Greeks, Uranus and Gaia. Uranus, the more refined deity, represented the light and the air of heaven, possessing the distinguishing qualities of light, heat, purity, and omnipresence. Whilst Gaia, the firm, she's the earth, by the way, life-sustaining earth, was worshipped as the great all-nourishing mother. Her many titles refers to her more or less in this character, and she appears to have been universally revered among the Greeks. There being scarcely a city in Greece which did not contain a temple erected in her honor. Indeed, Gaia was held in such veneration that her name was always invoked whenever the gods took a solemn oath or made an emphatic declaration or implored assistance. So think about that. Uranus, he's the ether, he's the heavens, he's the dream world, the astral, right? Gaia is the physical. These are your primordials, okay? Uranus, the heaven, was believed to have united himself in marriage with Gaia, the earth. And a moment's reflection will show what a truly poetical and also what a logical idea this was. For taken in a figurative sense, this union actually does exist. The smiles of heaven produce the flowers of earth, whereas his long-continued frowns exercise so depressing an influence upon his loving partner that she no longer decks herself in bright and festive robes, but responds with ready sympathy to his melancholy mood. The firstborn child of Uranus and Gaia was Oceanus, right? The oceans, water. The ocean stream, the vast expanse of ever-flowing water which encircled the earth. Here we meet with another logical, though fanciful conclusion, which a very slight knowledge of the workings of nature proves to have been just and true. The ocean is formed from the rains which descend from the heavens and the streams which flow from the earth. By making Oceanus, therefore, the offspring of Uranus and Gaia, the ancients, if we take this notion in its literal sense, merely assert that the ocean is produced by the combined influence of heaven and earth, whilst at the same time their fervid and poetical imagination led them to see that in this, as in all manifestations of the power of nature, an actual, tangible divinity. But Uranus, the heaven, the embodiment of light, heat, and the breath of life, produced offspring who were of a much less material nature than his son Oceanus. These other children of his were supposed to occupy the intermediate space which divided him from Gaia. Nearest to Uranus and just beneath him came Ether, a bright creation representing the highly rarefied atmosphere which immortals alone could breathe. Then followed Air, which was in close proximity to Gaia, and represented, as its name implies, the grosser atmosphere surrounding the earth which mortals could freely breathe, and without which they would perish. Aether and Air were separated from each other by divinities called Nephili, right? Nephilim. These were their restless and wandering sisters. They're restless and wandering sisters, the Nephili. Think about that. Who existed in the form of clouds. Clouds in the Bible means consciousness, by the way. Who existed in the form of consciousness. Ever floating between ether and air. The prince of the power of the air, right? And the ether, right? So the spiritual, right? And the mental, right? And Gaia also produced the mountains. And Pontus, the sea, the Pontus, right? Like, think about like Pontius Pilate and his pontification, the Pope and all that. The Pontus, the sea, right? Pope with the fish hat and all of that. She united herself with the latter, and their offspring were the sea deities, Nereus, Thomas, Phorcys, Ceto, and Eurybia. Coexistent with Uranus and Gaia were two mighty powers, who were also the offsprings of chaos. They were Erebus, which is darkness, and Nyx, which is night. Erebus and Nyx. So Nyx, think about like Nox and Pan and all of that, right? With the night, like the moon gods and all that, and how they play their flutes and, put you to sleep and all of that, right? Who formed a striking contrast to the cheerful light of heaven and the bright smiles of earth. Erebus, which I wonder if that's like Eros or something like that. We'll have to see that. Erebus reigned in that mysterious world below, where no ray of sunshine, no gleam of daylight, no vestige of health-giving terrestrial life ever appeared. Nyx, the sister of Erebus, represented night and was worshipped by the ancients with greatest solemnity, right? So Nyx or Nox or Pan, right, was worshipped by the ancients, right? He was the devil. Uranus was also supposed to have been united to Nyx, right? So Uranus, the father that breathes the living breath, was united to Pan, right? The devil. But only in his capacity as God of light. So the light was connected to the fucking darkness. He being considered the source and foundation of all light. And their children were Eos, which is Aurora, the dawn, and Hemera, the daylight. Nyx, again, on her side, was also doubly united, having been married at some indefinite period to Erebus. And in addition to those children of heaven and earth already enumerated, Uranus and Gaia produced two distinctly different races of beings called giants and titans. The giants personified brute strength alone, but the titans united to their great physical power, intellectual qualifications variously developed. There were three giants, Boreas, Codus, and Gyes, who was possessed 100 hands and 50 heads, and were known collectively by the name of the Hecatonacheres, which signified the 100-handed. These mighty giants could shake the universe and produce earthquakes. It is therefore evident that they represented those active subterranean forces to which allusion has been made in the opening chapter. The Titans were 12 in number, like the Zodiac, right? Their names were Oceanus, Ceos, Krios, Hyperion, Iapetus, Cronus, Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, and Tethys. Now Uranus, the chaste light of heaven, the essence of all that is bright and pleasing, held in abhorrence his crude, rough, and turbulent offspring, the giants, and moreover feared that their great power might eventually prove hurtful to himself. He hurled, therefore, them into Tartarus, the portion of the lower world which served as a subterranean dungeon of the gods. So here you go, right? These two races of gods, right? These titans and giants that were made by, once again, one's hurled into the lower. Right? So, in order to avenge the oppression of her children, the giants, Gaia instigated a conspiracy on the part of the Titans against Uranus, which was carried to a successful issue by her son Cronus. He wounded his father, and from the blood of the wound, which fell upon the earth, sprang a race of monstrous beings, also called giants. Assisted by his brother Titans, Cronus succeeded in dethroning his father, who, enraged at his defeat, cursed his rebellious son and foretold to him a similar fate. So, Cronus, right, time, right, succeeded in dethroning his father. That would be God. This is cursed his rebellious son. This is Satan right here. And told him a similar fate. Cronus now became invested with supreme power. and assigned to his brothers offices of distinction, subordinate only to himself. Right? Think about the principalities, powers, and dominions, and how all the dukes of hell and shit like that, right? Subsequently, however, when secure of his position, he no longer needed their assistance. He basically repaid their former services with treachery, made war upon his brothers and faithful allies, and, assisted by the giants, completely defeated them, sending such as resisted his all-conquering arm down into the lower depths of Tartarus. And the strong arm of the Lord, right? His all-conquering arm down into the depths of Tartarus. Now, I just want you to think, too, Mars, right? The masculine energy, right? This red planet, this dead planet, this, iron oxide all over it, iron, right? And how it's an anagram for arms, Mars, ARMS, right? And the shadow pestilence that's caused by Mars and shit, so I'm just saying, they're trying to tell you, the energies that, the masculine energy, he was a male masculine energy, the shadow side, Kronos, time, right? Cronus, or Saturn, was a god of time in the sense of eternal duration. He married Rhea, the daughter of Uranus and Gaia, a very important divinity to whom a special chapter will be devoted hereafter. Their children were 3 sons, the triune, right? Pluto, which if we think about, how Pluto was, just when it was discovered, coming under the ecliptic at this time, or coming up from the ecliptic at this time, it's just very interesting, how Pluto plays such an important role. And then, as, what all the stuff he represents, the occult and all of that too, Poseidon, which is Neptune, and Zeus, which is Jupiter. And 3 daughters, Hestia, Vesta, Demeter, which is Ceres, and Hera, which is Juno. Cronus, having an uneasy conscience, was afraid that his children might one day rise up against his authority, and thus verify the prediction of his father Uranus. In order, therefore, to render the prophecy impossible of fulfillment, Cronus swallowed each child as soon as it was born, greatly to the sorrow and indignation of his wife Rhea. When it came to Zeus, the 6th and last child, right, 6th and last, so him plus 6, that's 7. Rhea resolved to try and save this one child at least, to love and cherish, and appealed to her parents. And think about the swallowing of these children too, by the way. This is like the Matrix in itself, devouring each age, right, of consciousness. We're being swallowed, by time. Okay. Until the age of Pisces. Right. That's why you look out through history and we've been wiped out so many times and we have no recollection or no memory of any of these past ages. Why? They were swallowed by Cronus. They were swallowed by time. They were swallowed by time. So by their advice, she wrapped a stone. Once again, we hear the stone, right? The cornerstone, right? Christos. Wrapped a stone in baby clothes, the baby in the manger, right? Baby Jesus. The child thus saved, eventually, as we shall see, dethroned his father, Cronus, and became supreme God in his stead. So this rock, right, this cornerstone, Christos, baby in the manger, Jesus, Jupiter, the striped planet Jesus who bore our stripes, right, who had that red flower or that red eye, right, the rosy cross, Right? Like, I'm trying to tell you, this is the king planet, the king of kings. This child, thus saved eventually, as we shall see, dethroned his father, Kronos, father time, became supreme god in his stead, and was universally venerated as the great national god of the Greeks. So they were worshiping Jesus before Jesus, dude. Anxious to preserve Jesus, right? Anxious to preserve the secret of his existence from Kronos, the secret of his existence, Rhea sent the infant Zeus secretly to Crete, where he was nourished, protected, and educated. And it's an island of Crete, right? And I don't know exactly what the term Crete means. We can look that up. Let's see if there's the definition of the word Crete. Let's see what that comes up as, guys. Just for shits and giggles. Just for shits and giggles. Noisy, clamorous, boisterous, luxuriously fine or large, lavish, splendid, and powerful. So, the noisy island. Wow. The island of noise. What? The island of sound. What in the fuck, y'all? How about that? Right? And we've talked about this, the light and sound, and how we're made up out of sound and shit like that. Right? So he's taken to the island of Crete, which means noise or sound, right? Where he was nourished, protected, and educated in secret, right? This is the mystery of Christ. A sacred goat, the sacred goat, right? Lucifer, called Amalthea, supplied the place of his mother by providing him with milk. Lucifer, the scapegoat, right, to Azazel was ascribed all sin, the scapegoat, right, the leader of the Agigi, this, slave race of the gods, right, supplied the place of his mother, which is the divine feminine, right, Mother Nature, right, by providing him with milk. Nymphs called Melissae fed him with honey, and eagles and doves brought him nectar and ambrosia. And remember, the ambrosia is a drink of the gods. And think about the land of milk and honey, right? He's given the milk and the honey, right? And these doves, which is peace, right? Peace. Doves represent peace. Eagles are like wisdom and freedom. So peace and liberty and freedom brought him the nectar and ambrosia. It brought him eternal life. He was kept concealed in a cave in the heart of Mount Ida. And the Curites, or priests of Rhea, by beating their shields together, kept up a constant noise at the entrance, which drowned the cries of the child and frightened away all intruders. Now, think about this constant noise. What happened in the tale of Enki and Enlil? Why did Enlil want to destroy the earth? Because the noise that humanity was making. Because the noise that humanity was making. I'm trying to tell you, y'all, this is the fucking same stories. They're just told in different ways. By beating their shields together, which is your field, right? Your field. Kept up a constant noise at the entrance, which drowned the cries of the child and frightened away all intruders. Under the watchful care of the nymphs, the infant Zeus throve rapidly, developing great physical powers combined with extraordinary wisdom and intelligence. Grown to manhood, he determined to compel his father to restore his brothers and sisters to the light of day. Woo-hoo-hoo! Grown to manhood, right? Which is, think about this. This is that Aeon of Horus, the child, right? So when we become man, right, we go from drinking milk to meat, right, grown to manhood. He determined to compel his Father in heaven to restore his brothers and sisters to the light, and is said to have been assisted in this difficult task by the goddess Metis, who artfully persuaded Cronus to drink a potion. Ooh, Metis who persuaded Cronus to drink a potion. So this is witchcraft, right? Magic. So it's by this magic, right? Which caused him to give back the children he swallowed. Remember, these were the ages, the forgotten ages. Give back the wisdom, give back the ages, give back the evolution, give back the knowledge that was taken from us by time. The stone, which had counterfeited Zeus, was placed at Delphi. This is where the oracles were, right? And where it was long exhibited as a sacred relic, right? The stone, and think about the Bible talking about the stone with your name written on it, only you will know, right? Your secret name on it, right? Cronus was so enraged at being circumvented. Satan, Hasatan, was so enraged at being circumvented that war between the Father and the Son became inevitable. The war in heaven, right? The higher and the lower, good and evil. Satan and Jesus, right? The rival forces range themselves on two separate high mountains, high states of consciousness, right? This is two pillars, where he was joined by Oceanus, which is water, right? These two pillars joined by water, right? This is talking about how we're created here. And the others of the Titans who had forsaken Cronus on account of his oppressions, Cronus and his brother Titans took possession of Mount Othrys and prepared for battle. And let's see what Othrys means here, just while we're moving along. The Bastion of the Titans. The bridge. The brow or the ridge of a hill. Wow. Wow. Which, I do want to show you guys, sorry, wrong page. I do want to show you guys, this, I seen it on, a video. I don't know if you guys have seen it, like the giant man's face in the sky. Does anybody know if that's real? I don't know. I'd love to know that. This brow and bridge of the hill. So, Cronus was so enraged at being circumvented that war between the Father and the Son became inevitable. The rival forces ranged themselves with two separate high mountains. In Thessaly, Zeus, with his brothers and sisters, took his stand on Mount Olympus, where he was joined by Oceanus. So Zeus, Jesus Christ, right? Oceanus, this is the water, this is the age of Pisces. And the others of the Titans who had forsaken Cronus on account of his oppressions, Cronus and the brother Titans took possession of Mount Othrys and prepared for battle. The struggle was long and fierce. At length, Zeus, finding that he was no nearer to victory than before, bethought himself of the existence of the imprisoned giants, and knowing that they would be able to render him most powerful assistance, he hastened to liberate them. How about that? He hastened to liberate them. Who did he set free? We're thinking about the story of Michael, the archangel who releases them out of the bottomless pit. Right? Do you know that Michael is also Jupiter? Did you know that? Bet you didn't know that. Bet you didn't know that Michael, the Archangel, is also a Jupiter. You would if you watch this channel, because I've been telling you this for like fucking 10 years now, but whatever, right? So when he's talking about releasing those angels from the bottomless pit, Jupiter releasing those angels, Michael, he who is like God, releasing those angels, those angels from the bottomless pit, right, from the darkness. Remember, what are those angels from the bottomless pit? What are they? Yeah, that's right. They're from an age. They're the demons that Solomon used to build his temple. Right? Zeus, Jesus Christ, Christos releasing them. These imprisoned giants. And knowing that they would be able to render him most powerful assistance, he's evoking demons, friend. He hastened to liberate them. He also called to his aid the Cyclops, sons of Poseidon, the god of water, and Amphitrite, who had only one eye, each in the middle of their foreheads, and were called Brontes, or thunder, sound, and Steropes, lightning, sound and light. And Pyrrhomon, fire, anvil, fire, the smith, the sparks, right? They promptly responded to his summons. What do you summon? Demons. For help. And brought with them tremendous thunderbolts, which the Hecatoncheires and their 100 hands hurled down upon the enemy. At the same time, raising mighty earthquakes, which swallowed up and destroyed all who opposed them. Aided by these new and powerful allies, Zeus now made a furious onslaught on his enemies, and so tremendous was the encounter that all nature is said to have throbbed in accord with his mighty effort of the celestial deities. All nature throbbing in accord. Right? The vibration of the planet changing. The sea rose mountains high, and its angry billows hissed and foamed. The earth shook to its foundations. The heavens sent forth rolling thunder, and flash after flash of death-bringing lightning, whilst a blinding mist enveloping Kronos and his allies. And now the fortunes of war began to turn, and victory smiled on Zeus. Kronos and his army were completely overthrown, his brothers dispatched to the gloomy depths of the lower world, and Kronos himself was banished from his kingdom and deprived forever of the supreme power, which now became vested in his son, Zeus. This war is called the Titanomachia, and it is most graphically described by the old classic poets. Now, let's go to, now that you, starting to hear some of this stuff, I hope it's starting to kind of like stick with you guys. The one next to the moon, yes, that was fucking wild. I've got pictures of it. Let me see if I can pull it up and show you. I don't know, have you guys seen this? I'll post it real quick and just show you this. You can tell me what you think about this. This is fucking wild. Wild. I don't know if it's real or what it is. I don't know if it's real or not. So I'll post it real quick and then I'll pull it up for you guys to see if you want to check it out here. Hopefully, it's already Load it up here. This is wild. There's like this giant fucking stone-looking face next to the moon. Like, I don't know. I seen it on Mr. MB333's channel, and it's like when I seen it, I was fucking mind blown. I'm like, is this real? You know what I mean? Is this real? Here you go. This is it. You guys tell me. I don't know. I'm not saying this is real. I'm not saying this is fake. I'm not telling you either way. I don't fucking know, honestly. If anybody has any clue, please, help me out on that. I would love to know. Maybe I can pull up the original video, but, it's this giant ass fucking face here. I don't know. I've never seen nothing like this in my fucking life, guys. I swear I've not seen nothing like this in my life. Right here. Just look at this. Can you guys see this? This fucking face right here in the sky right next to the moon. Let me see if I can see it. It's a face, a nose, a mouth, the eyes, all of it. It's so wild. So wild. I've never seen nothing like this in my life. And it looks like a giant, like a stone face or something. Look at that. Am I crazy? Is this just fake? Does anybody know? Does anybody know about this? Anybody in the chat know about this? I would love to, know your thoughts on this one. Sorry. This blows me away, bro. This blows me away. Hopefully you guys can see it. But there you go. This is a good one of it right here. But I want you to think about this, y'all. Just seriously. Whether this is real or fake or what, I want you to just understand, consciousness, it's not what we think it is. It's not what we think it is at all. And there really could be a fucking, these giants, these titans, right, literally, right, sitting next to the moon, looking down on us. We don't know what consciousness produces outside of this earth. We don't know. We don't know how big consciousness can get. I believe that the planets themselves are conscious. That's why they have archetypes, which are personalities, right? Personas, egos, And they're so huge, they have these huge fucking egos, right? All the gods, huge egos. Why? They're huge consciousness. If you're a little consciousness and you have an ego, you don't think if you was a giant ass consciousness like that, you'd have an ego? Come on, man. Absolutely would. If it's a fake, it's a damn good one. It sure is. Yeah, I know. I've never seen anything like this. Y'all can let me know, what you think about this, in the comments or whatever. I'd like to play the video, but whatever. Now we're going to look at the allegory of the cave, and then last but not least, we will jump into, Plato's Atlantis. So, the famous allegory of the cave was written around 380 BCE as one of the most important and influential passages of the Republic. It vividly illustrates the concept of idealism as it was taught in the Platonic Academy. And it provides a metaphor which philosophers have used for millennia to help us overcome superficiality and materialism. In this dialogue, Socrates, the main speaker, explains to Plato's brother, Glaucon, that we resemble captives who are chained deep within a cavern who do not yet realize that there is more to reality than the shadows they see against the wall. Socrates. And now allow me to draw a comparison in order to understand the effect of learning, or the lack thereof, upon our nature. Imagine that there are people living in a cave, deep underground. The cavern has a mouth that opens to the light above, and a passage exists from this all the way down to the people. They have lived here from infancy with their legs and necks bound in chains. They cannot move. I want you to understand what he's actually talking about too. I don't want to give too much, but I want this to kind of like deeply resonate with the people that hear it, and I want you to come to your own conclusions on this. I'll tell you some of my thoughts. It's obvious, this this cave deep underground, this cave of treasures, all these caves, right? The cavern has a mouth that opens to the light above, right? And a passage exists from this all the way down to the people. So the voice of God, right? Like all the way down to the people. They've lived here from infancy with their legs and necks bound in chains. They cannot move. Remember these angels thrown in the bottomless pit, chained. They cannot move. All they can do is stare directly forward. Linear, right? Linear. As the chains stop them from turning their heads around. They can't see they're trapped by time. They're trapped by time. They're moving forward in their march to death, basically. They can't see at all. They lose their memory. Imagine, here we go. Allow me to draw a comparison in order to understand that. I just want to get your brain thinking in the right way. Now allow me to draw a comparison in order to understand the effects of learning, or the lack thereof, upon our nature. Imagine that there are people living in a cave deep underground. The cavern has a mouth that opens to the light above, and a passage exists from this all the way down to the people. They have lived here from infancy with their legs and necks bound in chains. They cannot move. All they can do is stare directly forward. As the chains stop them from turning their heads around, imagine that far above and behind them blazes a great fire. Imagine that far above and behind them in the past blazes a great fire. Between the fire and the captives, a low partition is erected along a path. Something like puppeteers used to conceal themselves during the shows. Something like the hidden hand. Glaucon says, I can picture it. Socrates. Look, and you will also see other people carrying objects back and forth along the partition. Things of every kind. Images of people and animals carved in stone and wood and other materials. Some of these other people speak while others remain silent. A bizarre situation for some unusual captives. So we are. Now, tell me if you suppose it's possible that these captives ever saw anything of themselves or one another, other than the shadows flitting across the cavern wall before them? Well, certainly not, for they are restrained all their lives with their heads facing forward only. And that would be just as true for the objects moving to and fro behind them. Certainly. Now, if they could speak, would you say that these captives would imagine that the names they gave to the things were able to see applied to real things? It would have to be so. And if a sound reverberated through their cavern from one of those others passing behind the partition, do you suppose that the captives would think anything but the passing shadow was what really made the sound? No, by Zeus. Then undoubtedly such captives would consider the truth to be nothing but the shadows of the carved objects. Most certainly. Look again and think about what would happen if they were released from these chains and these misconceptions. Imagine one of them is set free in his shackles and immediately made to stand up and bend his neck around to take steps, to gaze up toward the fire. And all of this was painful. And the glare from the light made him unable to see the objects that cast the shadows he once beheld. What do you think his reaction would be if someone informed him that everything he had formerly known was illusion and delusion, but that now he was a few steps closer to reality, oriented now towards things that were more authentic and able to see more truly and even further? If one would direct his attention to that artificial figure passing to and fro and to ask him what their names are, would this man not be at a loss to do so? Would he rather believe that the shadows he formerly knew were more real than the objects now being shown to him? Think about that. Much more real. Now, if he was forced to look directly at the firelight, wouldn't his eyes be pained? Wouldn't he turn away and run back to those things which he normally perceived and understand them as more defined and clearer than things now being brought to his attention? That's right. Now let's say that he is forcibly dragged up the steep climb out of the cavern and firmly held until finally he stands in the light of the sun. Don't you think that he would be agitated and even begin to complain under that light? Would his eyes not be nearly blinded, unable to discern any of those things that we ourselves call real? No, he wouldn't see them at first. It would take time, I suppose, for him to get used to seeing higher things. In the beginning, he might only trace the shadows. Then, reflections of people and other things in the water, and next, he would come to see the things themselves. Then he would behold the heavenly bodies and the heavens itself by night, seeing the light of the stars and the moon with greater ease than the sun and its light by day. Indeed so. And then I think he would at last be able to gaze upon the sun itself, neither as reflected in water, nor as a phantom image in some other place, but in its own place, as it really is, undeniably. And now he will begin to reason. He will find that the sun is a source for the seasons and the years, and governor of every visible thing, and is ultimately the origin of everything previously known. Of course, first he would see and then draw conclusions. That being the case, should he remember his fellow prisoners and their original dwelling, and what was accepted as wisdom in that setting? Don't you imagine he would consider himself fortunate for this transformation and feel pity for the captives? I agree. Now, suppose there were honors and awards among the captives, which they granted as prizes to one another for being the best at recognizing the various shadows passing by or deciphering their patterns, their order, and the relationships among them, and therefore best at predicting what shadow would be seen next. Do you believe that our liberated man would be much concerned with such honors, or that he would be jealous of those who received them, or that he would strive to be like those who were lauded by the captive and enjoyed pride of a place among them, or would rather take Homer's view and rather wish in earthly life to be the humble serf of a landless man and suffer whatever he had to, instead of holding the views of the captives and returning to that state of being? Truly, he would rather suffer a great deal than return to such a life. Well, here's something else to consider. If such a man would suddenly go from the sunlight to once more descend to his original circumstances, wouldn't his vision be obscured by the darkness? It obviously would. And so, let's say he is with captives and gets put into the position of interpreting the wall shadows. His eyes are still adjusting to the darkness, and it may take a while before they are. Wouldn't he become a laughingstock? Wouldn't they say, "You have returned from your adventure up there with ruined eyes"? Wouldn't they say, or not say, that the ascent was a waste of time? And if they had the opportunity, do you suppose that they might raise their hands against him and even kill this person who is trying to liberate them to a higher plane? I'm afraid so. Then, my friend Glaucon, this image applies to everything we've been discussing. It compares the visible world to the underground cavern, and the power of the sun to the fire that burned in that cavern. You won't misunderstand me if you connect the captive's ascent to the ascent of the soul to the intelligible world. This is how I believe, and I shared it at your wish. Though heaven knows whether it is all true, regardless, it appears to me that in the realm of what can be known, the idea of the good is discovered last of all. And it only perceived with great difficulty, but when it is seen, it leads us directly to the finding that it is the universal cause of all that is right and beautiful. It is a source of visible light and the master of the same, and in the intelligible world it is the master of truth and reason. And whoever in private or public would behave in a sensible way will keep this idea in focus. I agree to the extent I can manage to understand. Stay with me then for another thought. We should not be surprised that individuals who have reached this level might be unwilling to spend their time on mundane affairs, for it would not be that their souls always feel a calling to the higher things. If our illustrations hold true, that would seem quite likely. Yes, likely indeed. Now, would it be all surprising for the one who has been engaged in the contemplation of holy things, when he ventures into the ways of degenerate humanity, to appear ridiculous in his actions? What if, for example, while his eyes were still adjusting to the mundane gloom, he would be forced to appear in court to hold forth about the mere shadows of justice and the other shapes that flitted across the wall, and to engage in debate about such concepts with the minds of others who have never beheld the ideal of justice? I want you to think about this, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, this is some real shit. It would not surprise me the least. But one who has wits about him would remember that there are two things that pains the eyes: being brought from darkness to light, and transitioning back from light to darkness. Now, considering that the soul experiences the same discomfort, this man would not make light of another when he met with a confused soul. He would take the time to understand if that soul was coming from a luminous realm and his eyes were blinded by darkness, or whether journeying from the darkness of ignorance into an illuminated state had overwhelmed his eyes. One he would consider fortunate, and he would pity the other. And if he laughed at either, it would be less justified if he laughed at the expense of the one who was descending from the light above. I want you to think about that. That is fucking beautiful, by the way. When you're meeting somebody now, are their eyes adjusting because they're coming from a realm of light into darkness? You know? That's the one that you pity right there, the one that came up from the heavens and they're adjusting to the darkness. You know? And you have those that are adjusting from the darkness to the light. Right? Which path are they on? Of forgetting where they came from, or remembering? That is beautiful. Now, finally, we are going to read the history of Atlantis, the story of Atlantis here. And this will be the final one of the night, I think. We've done the story of Prometheus. We've talked about the primordials. We have talked about, the cave wall and all of that. So, now finally, Atlantis. And, I feel like these are like some of the very best of the Greek, honestly. And we will do, there will always be more. Every one of these that we've done, Anunnaki, all of them, they'll all have part 2s and 3s and stuff because I cannot fit everything into one, Okay. Alright. Plato's account of the Timaeus is in dialogue form. Socrates, Hermocrates, Critias, and Timaeus have foregathered for the purpose of philosophical debate. And Socrates reminds Critias that he promised them a tale which might prove acceptable for the festival of the goddess. Hermocrates, indeed, Socrates, as Timaeus said, we will do our utmost, nor can we excuse ourselves from the promise. Yesterday, indeed, on leaving this place, when we reached the guest chamber at the house of Critias, where we are staying, we were discussing this very matter. Critias then told us a story from old tradition, which you had better repeat now. Critias to Socrates, that he may help us to judge whether it will answer our purpose. Critias says, agreed, if Timaeus is pleased. Timaeus, I quite agree. Critias, listen then, Socrates, to a tale, which, strange though it be, is yet perfectly true. As Solon, soul on, right? The wisest of the 7 once said, he was a relation and a friend of Dropidas, my great-grandfather, as he tells us himself in his poems. And Dropidas assured my grandfather, Critias, who when an old man repeated it to us, that there were great and marvelous exploits achieved by Athens in the days of old, which through lapse of time and in the course of generations had vanished from memory. The most remarkable is one which it would be fitting for us to narrate, and so at once discharge our debt of gratitude to you, and also praise the goddess at the time of her festival by something in her honor. Socrates, a capital proposal. But what was this feat which Critias described on the authority of Solon as actually performed of old by this city, though unrecorded in history? I will tell you an old story which I heard from an aged man, for Critias was then nearly 90 years of age, while I was about 10. It happened to be the Children's Day. Right to the age of the child, of the Apaturia, and was customary, which was the festival in honor of Dionysus, Jesus, at which the young were enrolled in their clan. The boys enjoyed their pastime, our fathers giving us rewards for declaiming poetry. Much poetry by several authors was recited. Since that of Solon had the virtue of novelty, many of the children sang his poems. Then one of the kinsmen remarked, whether he believed so or merely wished to please Critias, that he considered that Solon was not only the wisest of mankind, but also the greatest of all poets. The old man was gratified and said, smiling, "Yes, Amenandros, if he had not regarded poetry merely as a side issue, but had addressed himself seriously to it, and if he completed the account which he carried from Egypt. Instead of being compelled to leave it unwritten by reason of the troubles which he found here on his return, I am of the opinion that neither Hesiod nor Homer nor any other poet would have enjoyed so much fame as he." "What account was that, Critias?" asked Amenandros. "I refer to it as a mighty achievement," he replied, "and one which deserved to be exalted throughout the world. A great deed which our city actually performed, but owing to the time and destruction of the doers thereof, the story has not come down to our days. Tell us from the beginning. The tale that Solon told, and how and from whom he received it is true. There is in Egypt, in the delta, at the head of which the river Nile divides, a province called Sais, and the chief city of this province is also called Sais, the birthplace of Amasis, the king. The founder of this city is a goddess whose name in the Egyptian tongue is Neith, and in Greek the Egyptians say Athena. The people of Sais are great lovers of the Athenians, and claim a certain kinship with us. Now when Solon sojourned in this city, he was honorably entreated by its people. And when he inquired concerning ancient things of the priest who most learned therein, he found that neither he nor any other Greek knew anything about such matters. When he wished to lead them on a talk of ancient times, he told them of the oldest legends of Pharoneus, who was called the first man, and of Niobe, the tale of the Deucalion and Pyrrha, how they survived after the deluge. And he reckoned up their descendants and tried by calculating the periods to count up the number of years that passed during the events he related. Then said one of the priests, a man well stricken in years, "O Solon, ye Greeks are but children, and there is no Grecian who is an old man." And when Solon heard this, he said, "What do you mean by this? You are all young in your souls, for you have not any old tradition, and any ancient belief nor knowledge that is hoary with age. And the reason of this is, many have been the destructions of mankind, and many shall be. The greatest are by fire and by water, but besides these there are lesser ones. For indeed the tale that is also told among you, how Phaethon yoked his father's chariot, and for that he could not drive his father's path, he burned up all things upon the earth, and was himself smitten by a thunderbolt and slain. This story has the air of a fable, but the truth concerning it is related to the deviation of the bodies that move around the earth and the heavens, whereby at long intervals of time a destruction through fire of the things that are upon the earth occurs. Thus do those who dwell on mountains and in high places and in dry perish more easily than those which live beside rivers and the sea. Now the Nile, which is our preserver, saves us also from this distress by releasing his springs. But when the gods send a flood upon the earth, lustrating her with waters, those in the mountains are saved. the neitherds and shepherds, but the inhabitants of the cities in your land are swept by the rivers into the sea. But in this land at no time does water fall upon the field, but the reverse occurs, and all rises up by nature from below. Wherefore the legends preserved here are the most ancient on record. The truth is that in all places where great cold or heat does not forbid, there are ever human beings, now more, now fewer. Now whether in Athens or in Egypt, in any other known place, anything noble or great or otherwise notable has occurred, we have written down and preserved an account of it from ancient times in our temple. But with you and other nations, the Commonwealth has only just been discovered. The use of letters and the other commodities that cities require. And after they wanted terms of years, like a returning sickness comes rushing on them from a torrent from heaven, and it leaves only the unlettered and untaught among you, so that, as it were, you become young again with a new birth, knowing not of what happened in ancient times, either in our country or in yours. So just like what I was saying, where, we are at these ages, it's like we have this great wisdom at the end of the age, but then after, the destruction or whatever, it's like we're back to square one. We're coming from the coming down off the mountain, and we forgot our gods and our guides, right? For example, these genealogies, Solon, which you just now recounted of the people of your country, are little better than children's tales. From the first place you remember but one deluge, whereas there have been many before it. And again, ye know the facts of the fairest and noblest, rare among mankind, lived once in your country, whence ye sprang, in all your city, which now is, from a very little seed that of old was left over. Ye know it not, because the survivors lived and died for many generations, without utterance in writing. For once upon a time, Solon, far back beyond the greatest destruction by waters, that which is now the city of the Athenians, was exceedingly righteous above all cities. Her deeds and her government are said to have been the noblest, whereof the report has come to our ears. And Solon said that on hearing this he was astonished, and used all urgency in entreating the priest to relate to him from the beginning, and about these ancient citizens. O Solon, I will tell it for thy sake, and for the sake of the city, and for the honor of the goddess, who is the owner and nurse and instructress both of your city and of ours. For she founded yours earlier by 1,000 years, having taken the seed of you from earth, and Hephaestus, and in ours in later time, and the date of the city's foundation is recorded in sacred writings to be 8,000 years ago, but concerning the city of Athens, 9,000 years ago. I will briefly from you their laws and the noblest deeds which they performed, precise truth. Everything will examine in due order hereafter, taking the actual records as our leisure. Regard the Hellenic laws in comparison. Sorry, guys, I'm getting tired here. Yeah, I am tired. It says you sound tired, John. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. That way I can just, I'll just have to do fix this and do another part of this. I've been going for a couple hours anyways, so that's what I'm going to do. I am getting tired. I want it to be good. I don't want to, I don't want to be without enthusiasm and all that while I'm reading. I like it to be exciting. So I do apologize for that. It looks like we've run out of time for tonight, but I want to thank everybody for joining me. if you guys enjoyed this, please, make sure to hit the like and give it a thumbs up, and consider donating and supporting to the channel. That's how not only I take care of myself, but how I'm able to do all the multi-streaming and just, all of that. So if you appreciate the channel, paypal.me, the Best Damn Podcast, Cash App, Best Damn Podcast. You can go facebook.com, John King Best Damn Podcast, or you can join us over on patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official. If you would like to book a personal tarot reading, text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. Also, text for the private links, the uncensored content, and all that good stuff if you've donated the month of March. Remember, every little bit counts and helps. So, whether it's $1 or $100, we're about $100 away from our monthly goal. So, if you guys help me get to that, I'll do free shows for the rest of the month, and give some discounted readings for the rest of the month and all that good stuff. So, help me get there, please. And you can listen to me forever. Thank you. And everybody, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe the main channel, youtube.com Best Damn Podcast Official, the backup, youtube.com Best Damn Podcast, facebook.com Best Damn Podcast, facebook.com John Keane Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, and check us out, Instagram, Best Damn Podcast, all that good stuff, and donate, support, share, like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you guys did enjoy it. This will be part 5, episode 5. So, damn, it's so crazy, man. It's hard to, go check out this playlist, the Mysteries of the Gods. If you haven't seen, we've done them on the Anunnaki, the Norse gods, the Egyptian gods, the Nephilim, really cool shit. It really is. And this is, this one does pretty well, on the backup channel, too. I'm surprised how well it's done on that. So, alright, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Like I said, hit that like, share this, comment, donate, support, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. You'll have an awesome, awesome evening. Sorry I just cut it off. I'm just getting tired, and I don't want to, make it shitty for y'all. So we'll pick it up on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
The murder rate in New Orleans has already surpassed last year's, and the negativity that comes with the killings, once again, has the headlines.
Pulling up with the new fans, just hot you. Sicky so sick, enemies think that I trust them. Head in the cuffs from the Martians. Isolated, I don't want discussion. Head like a bitch while I fuck her. Losing my screws like I got a concussion. Fuck it to your face, I ain't tryna wait. Hope was my home on the west side. Homies down the ride, let the chopper side representing that north side. I ain't got no time, crime after crime. Every day I'm down here to terrorize. Devil afterlife silence on 966, be my God. Hear the second line, hear your mama cry. Violence what we bout, all on my side. Thinking time, bitches suicide. Smoking your ash in my prime. Pulling up with a new grind. Fuck, dude, we fuck with your kind. Look, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with a new grind. Fuck, dude, we fuck with your kind. No, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with a new grind. Fuck, dude, we fuck with your kind. No, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow.
Aim my gun right at your throat. What was that shit you was spoke? Fan away all out the smoke. Shine at the mirror and sweep up the broken glass. Turn the backward in the ash, flicking all over my path. Follow the cash, zero these practice a splash. I am the whip, let me crash. Smoking that gas that distorted their blues. Blind as a bad eyes, roll back with the view. Ignore my phone, tell your bitches stay home. Cause when we just out the town, so do my soul. Back from the south, back from the drought, getting my mouth. Ain't no wet in the house, casually strapped up the casualty count. Every step I take is gasoline douse, pass me an ounce. Stacking the counts, keep talking shit, you'll get smacked in the mouth. Pulling up with that new grind, folk, dude, we fuck with your kind, no. I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with that new grind, folk, dude, we fuck with your kind, no. I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with that new grind, folk, dude, we fuck with your kind, no. I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow.
I think you bitches out of time. Yup, rolling too fast. of the points. We ducking chase, cause at the light. Rendezvous me with a little nigga white. Rose gold paddock, I'm thinking no ice. I need a big body, hottie in a bike. Rolling that dope, oh, she counted my moolah. That bitch a little shooter. I don't do the Rugers, that drill I like Usher and singing type soothing. I move like a brew and my lifestyle is stupid. I gotta keep Drake on me, nigga might lose it. Smoking that stain, he thought he smelled manure. I been a big boss, I'm a big, why me prove it? All of y'all niggas really out here losing. Pulling up with a new grind, folk. Do we fuck with your kind? No, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you die slow. Pulling up with a new grind, folk. Do we fuck with your kind? No, I done been out of my mind, so I don't mind watching you